Somebody's giving us a drum roll.
We have Jeffrey Moe's top 8 with my favorite legacy deck, Goblin Charbelcher. And I have something in my hand. If my camera, can you cut back?
You can cut back. So
you can't cut back. If you can see this right now, I'm holding $80 worth of islands.
80 or 90? I thought it was 90.
80 or $90 worth of islands.
90.
And do you know why? Because he has 15 islands in his sideboard.
I love that Cedric is playing to the camera.
I'm playing to the camera. It's not on. I don't care. You guys
know. There it is.
Yes. Look at his islands. These are in his sideboard. 15 of them. He didn't need them to top 8 the tournament.
So,
insane.
Yeah. On your way to building a Charbelcher deck.
Absolutely.
Yeah, got the sideboard down. So yeah, that's 5th place, Jeffrey Mose with Belcher.
Yep.
6th place, Glenn Jones.
Star City's own.
Star City's own Glenn Jones with Rug Delver.
Boring.
Eric Fry in 7th place. There he is, and he's playing Mud, as it says.
And we'll see him shortly against Todd.
Yeah, the name of his deck is Mud. Actually, it's about to start. 8th place, Joey Manor with Attack of the Show. We saw him on camera earlier.
We saw him earlier. We might see him more.
We might see him later. Let's get this on.
We are underway. Todd is playing Hypergenesis, as we said. Hypergenesis show and tell deck that we've seen at least a couple times today, but if you guys aren't used to it, he's going to be putting Gristlebrand, he's going to be putting Emrakul into play, Progenitus, all sorts of fun stuff.
It's a tribal legend deck, I think, is how you could say.
You could say that if you want to. And
so Eric has a Wasteland, second turn Ancient Tomb, and into Trinisphere.
And that's going to be a pretty big problem for Todd. It's going to make it so he's going to have to win via show and tell more likely than Hypergenesis, just because it's going to make Cascade plus Hypergenesis cost 6.
Yes. And there's Kuldotha Forge Master from Eric Fry on turn 3 off of obviously the Ancient Tomb he had last turn, the Wasteland, and a City of Traders he just played.
And if you guys aren't familiar with Mud, I mean, it's mostly an artifact deck. It's going to use City of Traders and Ancient Tomb to really power out its more powerful artifacts. It also has access to Metalworker and a bunch of fun stuff like Kuldotha Forge Master, Lodestone Golems, Sundering Titans, Wormcoil Engines, all of these super expensive artifacts that he can put into play on the cheap. Like that one.
Metalworker. So yeah, Eric able to, it's basically a ramp deck that just ramps into colorless mana.
Yeah.
And plays things like Wormcoil Engine, Blightsteel Colossus. These are in the deck. Sundering Titan. Todd particularly vulnerable to a Sundering Titan right now.
Yeah, at this particular point in time, very, very vulnerable to a Sun Titan.
Lodestone Golem, Platinum Empyrean, Steel Hellkite. These are just some of the guys. One duplicate in the deck.
Now you may be wondering, how is Todd going to be able to get through this Trinisphere that's on 3, or this Trinisphere, excuse me, that makes the spells cost 3.
Mm-hmm.
And what you'll find in Todd's deck list is 8 Spirit Guides, 4 Simian, and 4 Elvish that'll be able to enable him, to pay 6 mana for the 2 spells. So he can do that. And
right, that's his plan right now. He just needs to build up enough, build up to 6 mana.
Yep.
It's odd. It's kind of like standard. I'm trying to build up to 6 so I can cast my giant Titan. In this case, Titan in quotes,
Yeah, definitely in quotes. Looking to see what Eric is able to do, because he has that Kuldotha Forge Master there, just kind of waiting over there.
Yeah, that Forge Master is Tinker on a stick.
There are a lot of things that he can search for, but we can get to that in a second because it looks like Todd is going to be going for it right now.
So there he taps three lands, plays Violent Outburst. Is this at the end of Eric's turn?
Yep.
Okay, just double checking. And we're cascading, and we're cascading, and we're cascading. I'm not going to keep saying that. Past all these cards that cost more than, and there's Hypergenesis.
Now, Hypergenesis he's going to have to pay a total of 3 mana for, but Todd's making his play because he does have 2 Spirit Guides along with that basic land to be able to cast it.
That's odd. Wait, so how does that work? Because Violent Outburst costs 3. Doesn't Hypergenesis cost 3? Can it
does
not?
As well.
So it can't cascade into Hypergenesis.
No, it
because
costs...
I'm just looking at the wording on Trinisphere.
Okay.
Each spell that would cost less than 3 costs 3 mana to cast. Is it not? Does it not count as its converted mana cost? Is that how it works?
Yeah, its converted mana cost is 0.
Okay, but it costs 3.
Yes.
It's a very strange wording on Trinisphere. Well, it's confusing, I think, in this particular scenario.
Sure.
But since it's happening,
it is. It is on the stack.
Assume that it is all good. Neither player. I would think Eric would be quick to say, "Hey, that don't work when I got Trinisphere in play."
Hello.
Hypergenesis resolves. Todd using Spirit Guides to pay pay the extra 3, and he gets Progenitus, Emrakul into play. And Eric has some big fatties of his own.
I mean, that's
Blightsteel Colossus.
That's a Blightsteel Colossus, man.
That kills in 1 hit, where Progenitus takes 2. 2 hits, that is. So, Progenitus probably sticks back just in case. That was at the end of...
That was the end of the turn, so, I mean, his guys do have, in quotes, haste. And
right.
He is moving to his attack step, and if you look in Eric's deck list, which we didn't get the opportunity to get to quickly, it looks like he's going to be searching for, I presume, a duplicate. Yep, to take care of Emrakul. He's got a lot of things that he can do
to fight
with an active Forge Master in play. He has a duplicate he can search for. He has a Blightsteel Colossus he can search for. That's already in play. He has a Platinum Imperium that he can search for so that his life total does not change. A Steel Hellkite that he can search for. So he has a lot of options available. A Spine of Isha, which you...
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, that's a card
Haven't seen that in a while.
Rarely gets played.
So duplicate is actually kind of like a phantasmal image.
In a way.
Yeah, it's like a legacy or it's the Mud Dex version of Phantasmal Image, because obviously legacy players can play Phantasmal Image. But Duplicate is a 2/4, but it has imprint. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-token creature. So that's what happened. He exiled Emrakul, and what happens is, as long as the exiled card is a creature card, Duplicate has that card's power, toughness, and creature types. It's still a shapeshifter. So Eric just got himself a 15/15.
Yeah, no big deal.
Doesn't fly. Doesn't have the the Annihilate. But it's a 15/15.
How often do you see... Ooh, hello.
And Todd Anderson's going to go Show and Tell Emrakul. And that's okay, because the other Emrakul has been exiled.
How often do you see Progenitus playing defense?
Not very often.
It's somehow, like, fighting comfortably against a Blightsteel Colossus?
This is actually crazy. Look at the board. Like, just take a second and look down. And look, there is a 15/15 Duplicate, a Blightsteel Colossus on one side, an Emrakul and a Progenitus on the other side, and nobody's attacking.
Yeah.
Like, these guys just all have Defender. Now, I understand Todd keeping Progenitus back to defend from the Blightsteel. It's just kind of crazy.
I think Eric is going to go find Spine right now.
Is this Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah, what game are we playing? He's going to go find Spine of Isha. Yep.
So, Spine of Isha takes out Emrakul, and Todd Anderson scoops him up. Mud takes the first game. Eric
takes
Fry.
down... That was pretty crazy.
That was really cool.
That was pretty crazy. That just shows how powerful Quarterfinals Forge Master is. Now, I know we were a little bit rushed in between moving to the match because they were ready to go, but I do want to go over Eric's deck list very quickly as I was listing off some of the cards. Basically, what he does is he's going to be powering out artifacts as quickly as he possibly can with his lands that produce 2 mana. And he also has some trumps against Todd. You already saw that, Todd got Emrakul into play, he got Progenitus into play, and Eric was just like, whatever, I'm going to search for a duplicate to give myself a 15/15. I'm going to search for Spine of Isha to be able to take care of Emrakul. He has a card like Chalice of the Void, which counters Hypergenesis that he can search for. So he, oddly enough, as big and as large as Emrakul is, it's not even a big problem.
Not a problem. I think that whole game hinged on that Trinisphere. Because
that
slowed
does change
Todd
a lot
down
of things.
so like Todd couldn't get those guys out in time. When he did go off, quote unquote, Eric was all set up. He's like, sure, got my Forge Master, got a Blightsteel in my hand. He was all completely set up to deal with it. So we actually are going to give away some premium.
Let's give away some premium then.
We already have the questions all set up. We are prepared. So we did mention one of the players in the top 8. Michael Belfato.
Belfie, if you will.
He also won the standard portion earlier this morning. Here he is again in the top 8. So Michael Belfato has the opportunity to back-to-back win on the same weekend. Standard
A very difficult thing to do.
It's difficult. Only one other player has ever done so. Who is that player?
If you guys know, tweet us at SCG Premium.
Yeah, tweet us. Put the SCG Premium hashtag in there.
As I grab it, if you can't find it, I will.
So put that hashtag in your tweet, and a random correct answer.
What's it going to win?
Will win 3 months of premium.
Bingo. Only one player has back-to-back before.
What is it? It's the beginning of June. It'll be the beginning of September. We'll be about to return to Ravnica. We'll be packing our bags.
Yeah, we'll be
checking in for our flights.
We'll be out of M13. We'll be returning to Ravnica.
Yeah, we'll be about to. It'll be. I think spoiler season will be just about getting ready to start. You know,
we'll be in Happy Land. If you're in Ravnica, you're in Happy Land.
Right around the corner.
Sideboarding stuff. Now, as you saw in that game 1, Eric was unfazed by what Todd was doing, and I got bad news for Todd. It's going to get a little bit worse for him. Two more duplicates in the sideboard.
2 more.
3 Ensnaring Bridge. That's a nice 15-15. I have an Ensnaring Bridge in play. That can't attack. 4 Phyrexian Revokers if he chooses to go that route. He has a Silent Arbiter. Only one guy can attack each turn, and one guy can block. He also has an additional Trinisphere and a Wormcoil Engine to keep his life total high. So he has the tools at his disposal to definitely beat Todd. Looking at Todd's deck list, Joey,
he's got some options, but it's not anywhere near as many options as I believe Eric has. He's got some dismembers that he might want to use for like Forge Master.
Forge Master does have 5 toughness, right? I believe it's a 3/5.
I believe that's.
Check on that because we don't want to say anything incorrect, but I'm pretty sure it is a 5-mana 3/5.
We got a thumbs up from Jennifer. It is a 3/5.
So correct. Dismember can take care of that.
Right. Forge Master obviously was a pretty big problem for Todd that game because it grabbed the duplicate that copied the Emrakul.
Yeah.
So he does have 3 dismembers. He also has 3 Terastodon, which can take out some artifacts.
It can take out, you know, what I foresee it taking out if it does get into play is it's going to take out his lands.
Yeah.
And it might take out a Trinisphere or a Chalice of the Void, something like that.
Yeah, so that's reasonable. And he's got 1 Ingot Chewer, which would most likely get into play via Hypergenesis.
But don't forget, I mean, it only does cost a red to
evoke. Yeah,
evoke.
So you're right. Actually, he can evoke it, and you know, pretty early, just go ahead and.
If he has a Chalice of the Void in play on 0, he's able to take care of it. So.
We're off to the races.
Wasteland to start.
And there's the Chalice for 0.
Speak of the devil.
That Cedric just mentioned.
So what it's going to do is it's going to shut off the Hypergenesis side of Todd's deck. And if you look at Todd's hand right now, I do see a Show and Tell. I also do see a Force of Will and the new Cascade card from Plane Chase.
Is that Maelstrom Wanderer? Or
no, that's going to be
the little one?
That's going to be the little one, the Agent.
Okay, so Shardless Agent.
So it's going to be able to... He's going to have Force of Will backup is my point. If he does just Show and Tell, puts a big giant idiot into play, he'll have a card to remove to Shardless Agent to be able to counter whatever relevant thing he's putting into play.
He can remove Shardless Agent to Force of Will.
Correct.
You meant. Okay, got it.
And Todd is moving in right now. He's got Show and Tell right now. Off the Simian Spirit Guide, it is turn 2. Chalice does nothing against that. And it looks like he has a Gristlebrand. He also has a Terastodon in his hand, so he has options. We'll see which one he chooses.
So there's something, and it's a Gristlebrand.
It's an Ensnaring Bridge.
Wow. So Gristlebrand's lifelink, not so great. Although drawing a bunch of cards is still pretty good.
And drawing a bunch of cards is fantastic. Ooh, Grim Monolith. It's been a while since I've seen that.
And Grim Monolith from Eric.
I'm taking a look at Todd's deck right now to see how he can get out of the situation of Ensnaring Bridge. And I think, yep, he has Terastodon. That can take care of the problem. He also has that 1 Ingot Chewer, so he doesn't have a ton of ways, but
he does have ways.
But he does have ways.
And he is drawing 7 off of that Gristlebrand.
What's that last card? Ingot Chewer.
Like, there it is, the Ingot Chewer, yep. So he can go ahead and deal with that.
2.
He's going to do it again.
3,
4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. I love how we counted out. Todd Anderson just drew 14 cards.
He's not messing around.
Filthy, filthy, filthy Todd.
He's not. He's at 5. He's 5 life.
He went to 5 from 19 off the fetch line, right? To 19 off the fetch line. 14 for the Gristlebrand.
He's got to make this Ingot Chewer count, because now it gets to the effect of, what am I going to kill? Am I going to kill the bridge? Am I going to kill the Chalice to Hypergenesis? He's going to kill the bridge and get in for 7.
That seems good. I like that. Just get back up to a little safer life total, or maybe just stay at 5 and draw 7.
Yeah.
You know, it's ridiculous.
Todd, I see another Show and Tell in his hand. He's got a lot of dismembers. I mean, obviously Gristlebrand's going to give you all the options in the world. He could draw 7 more cards if he wants to.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty absurd.
it makes you feel a little bit more comfortable when you only have one Ingetchu in your deck, that if you're able to get Gristlebrand into play, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be able to find it.
Right, and there you have proof. Just to answer a quick question from Twitter, that if you win 3 months of premium, it's tacked onto your account if you already have premium.
Okay.
So just want to make
Good to
sure
know. Good to know.
mention that. If you already have it, you just get some more. It's 3 months of free premium.
So Todd is kind of lining his options up right now of, the cards he wants to keep in his hand, because he's going to discard a ton of them. I mean, he has a couple Dismembers, he's got Force of Wills, he's got Emrakuls, he's got all these things in his hand that are going to shuffle back in. The reason that that's important is because he's already used his Ingot Chewer. But if he discards an Emrakul,
it's back in the deck.
It's back in the deck, and it's live out for his Gristlebrand.
It's actually fantastic. Like we said this earlier about, I think when we were watching Caitlin play, just how synergistic this deck is with, you cascade into one of your 2 Hypergenesises, and at some point discard Emrakul, and you can just cascade into Hypergenesis again. They're just always right back in the deck with Progenitus and Emrakul, creating all those shuffle effects.
So now it's going to be interesting to see what Eric's able to do, because, I'm sure Eric thought he was in a fantastic spot. He had a Chalice for 0 on turn 1 to trump Hypergenesis.
And he still has the Chalice.
Yeah, and he still has the Chalice. He had an Ensnaring Bridge for the Show and Tell to trump the Grizzlebrand. Right. So, the hand that he kept was perfectly reasonable. It's a hand that I would keep if I was playing this matchup, but is he going to be able to get back in this game? And the answer is not quite yet.
No. Looks like Force of Will for that. I misspoke. I keep forgetting Progenitus just shuffles itself back, but the Emrakul still shuffles the Hypergenesis.
Yeah.
Is back.
So there's a Chalice, which is a little less intimidating. I like how...
You mean Crucible?
Yeah, Crucible. I like how Todd has the cards that he's kept. He's kept 2 Force of Wills along with 2 blue cards to protect himself there. And he also has a Dismember to protect himself against Kodotha Forge Master. So, he's kind of covered his bases on the, the avenues that he can lose.
Right, and in the meantime, he's beating down with Gristlebrand.
Which is, a decent spot
and drawing a ton of cards.
Yeah.
He's in, a ridiculously good spot right now. So there goes Gristlebrand.
Possibly soon.
Yeah, I mean, that's what some people have said. It maybe I think that we're being a little hasty. And he only has lifelink, not even haste. So,
I'd like to believe that this card can stay legal, but from what I have seen today from this card is terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. The way that it just keeps Todd in the game over and over and over again. He's like, all right, I'll just reset up again. I don't mind. It's no big deal. He's just going to keep force willing things. He's got over 7 cards in his hand again, so he can do the shuffle trick with Emrakul again.
I think, Avacyn Restored's been legal for, 3 weeks?
Yeah, it feels like maybe a month max.
So give the form, Gristlebrand clearly is great, and people are going to start to adjust for it. So give the format some time to adjust. I wouldn't see it being banned anytime. I wouldn't see it being banned June 20th for sure.
Not that soon.
Next banned restricted list announcement is in September. Maybe we'll talk about it again then.
Hey, I'm scared of it. I'm sorry.
It's a scary card. Just play Gristlebrand. Legend rule. There you go. Play right. Phantasmal Image, and then you're in Gristlebrand. I mean, we've seen this in Standard. It's just the same thing in Legacy. Play Mind Control. Just steal it.
It's so expensive.
Okay, play the Dalkin Shackles.
Okay. yeah, okay.
Well, Todd takes that game.
Todd takes that game solely on the back of Gristlebrand.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a powerful card. Eric took game 1 pretty much on the back of Trinisphere.
Yeah. Slowing
down Todd enough for Eric to cast his decks, the cards in his deck that his deck's meant to do. So very interesting matchup here. Eric with a lot of great tools, but Todd with some of the answers. And in that case, really all it took was Gristlebrand, draw me as many cards as I can, find the answers to what you've got, and kill you.
Yep. So I think
absurd.
I think that Eric is just going to still go with the same things that he has. He has the 3 Ensnaring Bridges. He has 2 Duplicants. He has he's not going to use the Revokers or the Silent Arbiter. He has the 4 Trinisphere on the board. He may or may not board in the additional Wormcoil Engine as well. I mean, if you look at Phyrexian Revoker, that could actually be key in this matchup because it can stop Gristlebrand.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the route that he should go if he feels that's really the only way that I can lose is if Gristlebrand gets going.
Yeah. Griselbrand only needs to resolve. You know, there's no haste. I'm sorry. There's no summoning sickness that he needs to worry about as far as drawing cards. You can just do it.
As ridiculous as this is to say, Eric might be thinking to himself, you know, the only way I'm going to lose is to Griselbrand drawing a bunch of cards. I don't care about a 7/7 flying lifelink. That's no big deal. I can beat that with Ensnaring Bridge and Duplicate and all these other things. But you drawing 7 cards for 7 mana, or for 7 cards for 7 life, I can't beat that part of it.
Yeah, so that's I can see how the Revoker would be reasonable. You need to get it down like early, you know, and it can come down early.
8 2-mana lands will make that a little bit easier, along with these 2 Mox Opals, which you probably can't get going on the first turn unless, you know, something very favorable happens in his direction. But this matchup is going to be really, really swingy, so it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I mean, that game even, I was like, you know, Todd is in a bad spot, and Ensnaring Bridge is here. You know, Chalice of the Void is here.
Right, it looked bad early. Eric did seem to have a reasonable, about the best start that he could.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Todd finds the Ingot Chewer, and it's all, and well, obviously, and Griselbrand.
Yeah.
And it's all downhill for Eric from there.
So Eric is going to be on the play first this game, and you know he's just going to be looking for, I mean, 2 mana, the lands that add 2 mana. He's going to be looking for a Chalice of the Void off the start, because don't forget, guys, Todd can cast Hypergenesis on turn 1. We've seen it happen already.
Yeah.
All it takes is 2 Spirit Guides and a land, and he can Hypergenesis on turn 1. But what's kind of fun about this matchup is Hypergenesis against most of the decks Todd's played against, it's been very one-sided.
Right, because they're like, Sylvan Library? How about this Caracas? Like, that's actually not bad, Caracas.
Wild Nicodle, does that do anything? Whereas Eric is like, oh, well, I didn't have enough mana to put this Duplicate and Kadoltha Forge Master and Blightstone Colossus into play, so I actually appreciate you casting that.
Thanks for the Eureka.
So very, very back and forth. I'm really interested to see how this third game actually does end up. As I shuffle away, I see you taking a look at SCG Live over there. Any fun questions, you know, going on in our chat? Someone agreeing with me that Griselbrand is worthy of the banhammer. I'm being a little hasty, of course, and you know, I'm seeing Griselbrand in action for the first time in Legacy, and the power level of it is scary. I'm not saying that it has to be banned right away, but watching what we have seen this weekend, it's a very, very impressive card.
Yeah, I like Cranny's hashtag there, because his last name's Cranstuber. Banstuber.
Banstuber?
Yeah,
I like that. That's good.
Hashtag Banstuber. He forgot though to include the other hashtag, Griselband.
Griselband. Please quietly leave.
Cranny, you did it wrong.
Both players look to be going to 6 right now. Do you think this favors one player or the other? Do you think one player mulligans better than the other here?
I think Todd can mulligan it into something ridiculous. You know, like you said, the turn 1 Hypergenesis can happen. Of course, Eric can just put something ridiculous into play too. So I don't know that I feel like it favors Todd, because that's what his deck is really supposed to do, and being able to maybe do that very early. I feel like Todd's deck is built to go off very early. Eric's deck is not necessarily, you know, it's built to cast a lot of those spells earlier than they would normally. You know, it's not like you're playing basic lands. You are kind of trying to ramp here, but his is not a combo deck that tries to go off the way Todd's does, and so I think Todd's deck is just built to go off as early as possible, so a mulligan, I think, favors him that way.
Okay. I'm interested to see, that's for sure, because as far as I know, and don't quote me on this, I don't think either player mulliganed either the first games. You know, they just had very light 7-card hands. They did their thing, so. We're just taking a look at the chat right now, that's all. A lot of people chiming in, and hopefully you guys are enjoying what you're seeing. This match is, I mean, I would love to see these guys play a 5-game set.
That would be cool.
Just to see, you know, three games. I mean, they're high variance games. You know, there's
really
a lot.
are.
There's a lot that's going on both sides. You know, Hypergenesis can come back to bite Todd. Show and tell. You know, let's say Todd puts an Emrakul and he's like, "All right, duplicate that. Thank you, sir."
Yeah, it's crazy the things that that Eric's deck is capable of when facing a Hypergenesis deck. It's actually, I feel like Todd's deck almost makes Eric's deck better depending on what's in Eric's hand.
I agree with you.
You know, Show and Tell and Hypergenesis.
And off we go. It looks like they've both kept.
And it's the same opener I think we've seen in all 3 games.
Yeah, it really is.
It was at least the same opener game 1. I'm pretty sure the same thing game 2. It was definitely Wooded Foothills on Todd's side game 2.
So I can see Todd's hand. He's got 2 Progenitors. He has a Show and Tell. It may or may not be safe to assume that he has a Spirit Guide as well, and he's probably considering to himself, do I Show and Tell here? I have Progenitus. You know, it's going to trump Duplicant. It's going to trump some of the things that he has. But if he has, you know, a card like Platinum Imperium, if he has a card like Ensnaring Bridge, then what I'm doing isn't really very effective. So
yeah, you almost wonder if Eric's like, you know, I kind of want him to play Show and Tell. I want his Hypergenesis to go off because I can capitalize on that and I can deal with his guys.
the fun thing about Show and Tell too is that it's like a little game, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's gonna, you know, you guys both put your card face down,
right?
And, you know, he has 2 Progenitus in his hand, so you know, Eric could be thinking to himself, aha, I am ready for Grizzlebrand, I'm ready for Emrakul, and he's like, oh, I just have a 10-10 with protection from everything. Were you ready for that? And he's like, actually, I wasn't.
Yep, I was ready. All right, so Todd cracking the fetch. Looks at his hand. We see double Progenitus, Show and Tell, and then I couldn't quite tell what was left. It may have been the. It looked like a gold bordered card. I think it may have been Maelstrom Wanderer, but it was just not enough of the art for me to be able to tell. There's Elvish Spirit Guide.
Making his move.
Oh, I think it was that.
Okay, we're
it was
cascading.
the Shardless Agent.
This is scary.
Cascade.
Keep in mind, guys, he had the option to Show and Tell if he wanted to, and
he did not.
Decided,
Yeah.
He decided against that and decided to go with Hypergenesis as well.
Which means to me he's got more than one thing he wants in play in his hand.
I mean, we know he has 2 Progenitus in his hand.
Yeah, but he's not going to put both of those in play.
Of course.
Cedric, that's a terrible idea.
You are so correct. I've never been able to agree more with someone. Showtime.
And so Hypergenesis resolves. We've got Progenitus versus Blightstone Colossus. This is like 2 Tarmogoyfs facing off against each other. And there is Maelstrom Wanderer, and there's Wormcoil Engine. And Todd's like, well, I've got Progenitus and Show and Tell in my hand. Guess I'm all finished. Oh,
Jesus God.
But Eric Fry is not finished. And there's triple Wormcoil Engine, Spine of Ishtar for your Maelstrom Wanderer. Well, thanks for the Hypergenesis. I think Eric got the better end of the Hypergenesis that time.
You are a scholar and a saint.
Oh my god.
Like I said, he had the option.
Yeah, that was...
He had the option of...
That was...
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what do? You touch your Shardless Agent and just extend the hand. Eric Fry with Mud defeats Todd Anderson's Hypergenesis.